So in your book, you also mention about the global meaning crisis, actually. People don't know who they are and they lost identity. So how to cope with it from your point of view? How to deal with the phenomenon? We can't come back. We can't go back.
We can't go back. This should be very clear.
Yeah, we must create new. Yeah, what's new? What's the new meaning?
I think that always the key is to get to know ourselves better. When people ask what is the meaning of life, they usually expect to be told some story about the universe, which gives them some role to play. You have the Jewish story, the Christian story, the national story, but all these stories are false because the universe doesn't work as a story. It exists today in the world, not Israel, not Japan, not Greece, not Egypt. None of them existed 5,000 years ago. Humans coming out of Africa, the first cave art, the farming, the invention of farming, of agriculture, the invention of writing, of money, the first cities, all these things happened long before any of the nations that today exist appeared. So none of them offers you an eternal truth. And I think that what the real answer to this search for meaning is leave all these stories aside. And the key thing is to really understand the reality about yourself. So there are many tools to do it, from meditation to the tools of science, that to really explore what is the body, what is the brain, what is happening within me. If you really know the truth about yourself, I don't think that you need any of these stories anymore.
So you say you must create your own story.
No, you don't create your own story. You search for the truth, about the reality about yourself.
But you said the whole history is about story, but how to see the reality. But people never live in the kind of true reality, mostly fictional.
Yes, as I said, in order to live in society, in order to have a functioning social order, you must have all these kinds of stories. They're useful as tools. You cannot build societies without a story in which people believe. But it's the same in the case of entire nations and religions. You can't organize millions of people together if they don't agree on some common story and common laws. So we need these things. But they are just tools. They are not the ultimate reality. If you mistake these imaginary stories for the ultimate reality, then you will never know the truth about yourself, and you will start usually sacrificing people for the sake of imaginary story, like what is happening in the Middle East all the times.
Talk about insight as a medieval historian.
Yeah.
I mean, historian training shape your view now.
It gives you a much broader perspective on the current and future developments. And if you look at the 19th century Industrial Revolution, a country like Britain or Germany became a powerful empire because it industrialized first. But then a country like China or like Korea suffered tremendously. It was occupied and exploited by the industrial powers. So some things repeat themselves. Every invention, every discovery usually creates new inequality. As a historian, I can raise a warning that it's very unlikely that the new powers of artificial intelligence will be shared equally between all the countries in the world. It's much more likely that some countries will lead this new revolution. They will be able to dominate and conquer and exploit all the others in an even more extreme way. So some things repeat themselves, but other things are really different. I would say that maybe the most important difference is that in the past, almost all the inventions and discoveries, they gave people control of the world outside. We learned how to control the other animals, the forests, the rivers, but we never gained much power over the world inside us. And this is the big change that will happen in the 21st century. Powers we are gaining is power over the internal world, to re-engineer and manufacture bodies and brains and minds. I think Earth will be dominated by entities which are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees.
Do you feel that you maybe sometimes you underestimated the human spirit? I mean, from late 19th century, maybe from Freud, they tried to explore your psychology. And also Virginia Woolf said the human spirit changed totally. But really change?
You are right. We know very little about the mind and about the spirit or the psychology of humans. It won't prevent us from gaining immense manipulative powers over ourselves. And this is one of the dangers. We had control, we had power to manipulate the world outside. We didn't understand the ecological system. And the same thing may happen with the world inside. We are far from understanding the human spirit or the human mind. And the result may be that we will face a mental collapse, similar to the ecological collapse we are seeing now. I think we are facing the danger of the distractions.
Maybe human spirit is much more adaptive than we think and we imagine.
It is very adaptive. That's certainly true. And we see it here that we still have the Stone Age bodies and Stone Age brains, and here we are flying in airplanes and living in big cities and so forth. So we have an amazing ability to adapt. But what we see is a process of domestication of humans. We adapt the abilities that the economic system needs from us, the political system needs from us, but we neglect many other potential abilities that are deteriorating. This is what happened to the other domesticated animals. We created cows that produce enormous amounts of milk, but otherwise they are far less capable than wild cattle. Now, what the economic system needs from us is to constantly connect to the communication system. And all the new technologies, what they are doing is drawing us out of our body, disconnecting us from our senses, from our body, and connecting us instead to cyberspace. If you don't feel at home in your body, you will never feel at home in the world. My impression is that the number one cause for the feeling of alienation and stress, which has huge economic advantages, but the mental price is very, very big.
How do you evaluate your own visionary capability?
I hope they are good. I think history is really the study of change. Historians, their speciality is to study how things change in the world.
I mean, it's so funny or very paradoxical. You're trained as a historian, but people ask you like you are a prophet about future. So how do you think about it?
Now, of course, and I try to clarify it, but people don't always want to listen. I try to clarify it that I'm not a prophet. I'm not making predictions. Nobody knows what the world would be like in 30 or 50 years. It's impossible.
Now, many people read your books because they want to survive in the future.
Yes.
It's become a new social Darwinism. So how do you react to I mean, they are reading purpose.
This is one of the problems of writing books and being an author, that you have no control of the way in which people read your books. And I see it in many cases, like I write a passage in an ironic tone. For me, it's obvious that this is irony. And I think everybody who reads it will understand. I don't mean it seriously. It's just an irony.
They didn't get it.
And they don't get it. I mean, they read it in a completely flat and serious way. And they understand exactly the opposite of what I intended.
So when you were on the stage, you talk about this, so you feel strong alienated from the reality?
So it sometimes happens with some people, and you just have to accept that. I mean, there is no way to write something that people will always understand. You think about, I don't know, say the Bible. So you have Jesus coming and telling his disciples, if somebody slaps you on the cheek, turn the other cheek. And you should have only love for all people. And somehow people read this and they burn heretics and they start religious wars. I mean, how, if it's possible to get from Jesus to religious wars, then people can just, do with texts almost anything they like.
Okay.
I mean, again, I don't try to predict the future. I try to point out different possibilities, and I hope that, like Huxley, I'm offering an interesting vision.
Yeah, okay. Do you mind people call you guru?
I don't like it, but I have no control over them.
Okay. 比起所受的中世纪历史训练，赫拉利更像一个将前沿科技与宗教预言相结合的现代guru。想要理解他的学说与精神世界，最好来到他生长的地方。耶路撒冷是一座有着3000年历史的古城，也是犹太教、基督教、伊斯兰教的发源地。
有一个小平台，你望出去，居然可以看到2个宗教的地标性建筑物，一个呢是西墙，一个呢是金顶。
与耶路撒冷相距1小时车程的特拉维夫，却是一座引领世界科技的现代都市。我相约赫拉利在这儿再次见面，我很好奇，如此复杂的环境对他的影响是什么。Hi, see you again.
Hello.
Hi, see you again. See you again.
Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
So where to go? We need the car.
Yeah, we are ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Please. I just traveled from Jerusalem, the old city. You see the different culture, different religion, and I mean very mixed culture, and lots of burden from history. Is there a kind of Israeli mentality? Could you describe it?
As a tourist, maybe you go there, oh, it's very interesting, or you see all the old places, or this is where Jesus was, and so forth. But you live there, the amount of hatred in that place, it's like a nuclear reactor of hatred. Religion can be a wonderful thing, but when you live in Jerusalem, you realize that it can be a terrible thing. How much hatred and anger. Ideally, a temple or a religious place is a place where you go in order to experience peace and harmony. If you go to a temple and you experience hatred and anger, then this is a dysfunctional temple. It's not working, It's like going to a hospital and getting back even more sick. So Jerusalem for me is a dysfunctional temple.
How this kind of things shape your mind, shape your...
The influence on me, if this is what you ask, it obviously has an impact. I mean, if you live in a place like Silicon Valley, maybe you can have this kind of utopian vision of a world governed by science and by rationality and things like that. But if you live in the Middle East, it's obvious to you that you cannot escape this tension, because all around you people are killing each other because of their belief in fictional stories. So it's very clear to you that fiction is an extremely powerful thing. My house, the village where I live, is exactly middle of the way between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. On the one hand, I'm very connected to this world of Tel Aviv.
Modern technology,
modern technology, high tech, all that. And on the other hand, very connected to Jerusalem with all the religion and mythology and especially this is why I think much of my writing and scholarship is about this tension between the modern world of the 21st century and artificial intelligence and all that, and on the other hand, the still great impact of all these mythologies and fictional stories and religions.
When did you notice the tension? When did you notice the hatred of religions and
I think only when I left Israel and I went to do my PhD in Oxford, then I realized how much tension there is in the place. Or when you're born into it, you think, well, this is how the world is, and only when you go out, you realize, no, this is not how the world is.
How do you think about the Jewish people? I mean, the Jewish come back, take the city, they become a new authority. Is understanding or for you not?
For me, I don't have a problem with the religion about the Jews. And they was living here before the occupation, and we have places that they are neighbors of the Arabs, and they don't have any problem with the Palestinian here before the occupation. When they kick them out from Europe and receive them, and later they are get of this country. But after, it's became the problem. When I talk with the Israelis, most of the people, they have this stereotype. We really feel that. When they talking with me, are you a real Arab? Yeah, I am Arab. Are you born here? Yes, I am born here. You know, here, the thing that it's helped me to live here in Jerusalem, it's how I look. According to the stereotype of the Israelis, I'm not look like the local people. The local people have to be dark-skinned, not handsome person, and also my accent is good in Hebrew.
You speak Hebrew?
Yeah, of course, because I'm a lawyer. And in a good accent.
So what's your nationality?
Nationality, I don't have any nationality of any country. It's just residency. If I pass something, if I travel more than 3 or 7 years out of Israel, so they can get the ID, my ID. It's mean they can kick me out anytime. Like that we live.
Do you have any solution? I mean,
actually, I don't see any solution. I am born here and I love this country. I will not pass to anywhere.
Welcome, welcome everybody.
Maybe say something about yourself. You're from Dutch?
Well, I am from a Dutch-German family, but I was born here. Nowadays I'm studying to become a rabbi, conservative rabbi.
How could one be a rabbi?
You have to study and you have to pass exams.
You compare with the priest for the Christian, similar things or not similar? I mean, the role they played in the social society.
I think you are the spiritual leader of the people, and it's a very important job because you're working with people.
For us, for our outsider, the Jewish education seems very interesting combination. On the one side, it's quite religious. You stick some everlasting truths. On the other side, the Jewish people seems very open to new technology, new knowledge. So how to explain the combination of this kind of paradox?
You know, if you read the Talmud, you can see in the Talmud that they already were very much open-minded. They had already broad knowledge. They didn't say, oh, we only have to confine ourselves to one knowledge, which is the Jewish. We have to understand everything because life is about everything. Talmud is a lot about discussions, open discussions. We bring different ideas and, oh, you heard a story that came from another country. How do we relate to that story? Is it relevant to us? I think that in the Jewish philosophy, and you have to listen to everything, understand other cultures, other people. 2,000 years ago, we were fighting amongst ourselves. And because we were fighting, You know, there were splits in the people. The temple was destroyed. So, you know, I think that the big issue of today is how do we build bridges? You know, how do we educate the next generation so we build bridges to people who are different than us?
And how the Jewish people deal with the trauma? Teach the kids to know the trauma, to know their past.
We realized that the stories are very, very important. Everybody started talking about it and understanding that it is important to discuss it.
Do you think the Israel today still facing kind of existential crisis?
I want to believe that not. I think that, look, there are people in the world that say that they want us to disappear. But I don't think that, you know, practically it's possible. But human beings are not always predicted. What we learn from history is that human beings, that people, never learn from history. So history can often repeat itself because we just don't learn. So we don't look with open eyes of what happened only a few years ago and say, okay, let's do it differently. So I don't know. You know, I don't think that we are today on an immediate threat. But of course, Israelis feel that there is a threat. But I hope and I believe that we are strong enough and we'll be okay.
在以色列，宗教深入人们的生活，不同教派主张各异。
The fulfillment of my people's prayers for 2,000 years, 3 times a day. The Jewish
海雅是一位有着3个孩子的正统教犹太人。Do you still feel lots of dangers in everyday life?
You know, there was a time when there were a lot of car rammings going on in Jerusalem where terrorists would ram their cars into children. That was a scary time. You know, my kids would go to school in the morning and I would literally cry with fear. That's not been happening in the past couple of years, so it's a quieter time right now. So I don't feel fear. I let my kids roam around freely.
From your point of view, how to settle the huge conflict between Israel and Palestine is possible? During so long time.
Right. I think with the consciousness that we have today, it's not so possible. We need to be doing that work on ourselves personally and inside of ourselves. You know, I'm a therapist. I do couples workshops, you know, where it's about working on communication. So I think we need to be communicating more with our enemies and working through it via communication.
If the city is a patient,
yeah.
How to describe the psychological problem or maybe mental disorder for the city?
You know, it's interesting we're having this interview today. Today is the National Day of Mourning. There's all sorts of things that we do today to enter into a consciousness of mourning for all of the pain of the world. 2,000 years ago, our people had senseless hatred. We hated for no good reason. We hated our brother, we hated our cousin, we hated. And for that, our national story goes, our temple was destroyed and the Jewish people were dispersed all over the world because we could not love each other. That's our psychological ailment is hate. And so the fixing of that is going to be love. It is love, senseless love. What does that mean and how do we do that is a whole other question, but I think just having that awareness, and we're trying to learn how to love senselessly.
Wow.
I know that seems like a little bit like theoretical maybe, but I think it's true. I think that's where we have to start.
Tell me more about your self-searching in Oxford, your life, your thinking, your mentality, how the change happened.
How the change happened?
Yeah.
Well, I went to Oxford to do my PhD on military history. I was always very interested in the big questions of life.
Yeah.
What are we doing here, and what is the meaning of life, and what is the source of suffering in the world, and things like that. But I got the impression that you couldn't really engage with these questions in the academic world. the academic world is kind of pushing you to focus on more and more narrow and specialized questions. On a parallel track, I'm personally very engaged and interested in these big philosophical questions.
Big tension for you.
Yeah. When I got my tenure at the university, I felt that, okay, now I'm kind of secure. Now they can't do anything to me. I'm some terrible crime, like you murder the dean or something, they can't touch you.
Yeah.
So I try and reconnect the two tracks with these big questions about humanity and about life. I guess it was luck had something to do with it, but it was very successful.
In the 20th century, there are some historians also ask big questions like Arnold Toynbee, H.G. Wells. How this kind of tradition shaped you? I mean,
influenced me.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest influence on me, I think, was from Jared Diamond.
Jared Diamond.
He was a specialist in birds.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was the one who came and kind of showed the historians, look, you can do these things to, like, looking at humans from a bird's eye view.
From bird to bird view.
Yeah.
So, you're comparing Jared Diamond. What's your advantage and disadvantage of your books?
Their strength compared with me is that I don't really have any background in biology. But if you just know biology, if you just understand evolution and you know everything there is to know about humans, you can now explain human history. I don't think that this can work because human history also has a very important ingredient of culture, of ideas, of stories, of fictions. And this is kind of my speciality, the exploration and understanding of fictions and mythologies and stories and their immense impact on human history. And if you don't give enough importance to the stories, to the fictions, you will never understand something like the Second World War, or like the French Revolution, or like the rise of Christianity. There was no biological or geographical explanation.
So what do you think the major flaw of your theory? Have you ever think about it?
Of my theory?
Yeah, your perspective. You try to explain the whole world, the history, but what's the major flaw in the process?
Well, if I knew the major flaw, I would have corrected it. But there are definitely flaws. I mean,
do you have any kind of worry? Maybe I speak so much about the change, the process, but actually I don't understand very well. Do you have any kind of concern?
There are many areas.
Because your tongue in the books is so confident. So,
yes.
Yeah.
There are many areas that I talk about and I have no first-hand experience. I just rely on what the experts in the field say and I believe them. And I have no ability to kind of verify for myself that what I'm saying is true. I just believe them. So it's only second-hand knowledge. I read articles and books about artificial intelligence and what are the principles behind the program, behind the machine learning. So I trust that they are right. I hope that they are not kind of, making this colossal mistake and leading the entire world after them.
它算一种启蒙啊，让你想这些问题 ，AI 什么问题。但是大部分情况下，大家不会真的想嘛，大家只是盲从某种新的说法而已，新的流行而已。它不是催促你更复杂性的思考，或者说要面对自己的很多问题。它更像是一种抚慰剂的方式。启蒙还是要很多自我发现的觉醒。
你看那个乌鸦在上面，下面卧虎藏龙。哇，好漂亮！
你从建筑形上显然它是有点博采众长，就有点和像他要把其他的宗教
大同是吧？
完全大同在这里。